It's going to be a dramatic, catalytic event for the human family.
We're heading for the cliff at 80 miles an hour, and the brakes are out.
The four horsemen of the apocalypse: war, famine, pestilence, and
I have
death.
sent a small document to the President of the United States, the most important, influential man, about how do we power our planet in the future and the survival of the
I need
human
the
race.
leaders of the different countries to come together, literally come together, and contact me and bring other leaders of nations together and make this a better world through cooperation. We have so much conflict in this world. Korea wants to blow things up. We got wars going on. It is completely insane.
In a period of hundreds of millions of years, with enormous pressure and heat, the Earth formed petroleum from decayed living matter. And in less than 150 years, by many estimates, we have bled the planet of roughly half of its oil. We have extracted roughly 1 trillion barrels of oil since the late 19th century. Most of that oil has been consumed by Western societies, and it has been, arguably, the basis for the enormous power and wealth of Western nations. Now, most of the remaining oil on Earth lies underground in less industrially developed countries. In order to get that oil, and to get it as cheaply as possible, Western companies have devastated environments and caused terrible human suffering. People in Western societies are largely unaware of the harm caused from oil extraction. We are unaware because it goes unreported. Now we are confronted by the prospect of world peak oil. Peak oil is the point in time where the quantity of petroleum extracted from the Earth begins to irreversibly decline. As fossil fuels are so deeply intertwined in our existence, particularly our food production, the results could be catastrophic, especially in the face of rapidly rising oil demand. And as oil becomes scarce and prices rise, the environmental destruction and human suffering will likely increase. And the competition for oil will get more aggressive.
One of the most common questions that people ask is, do you think that the peak oil that you write about is going to produce a global catastrophe? And my answer is, it already has.
Well, John, by now, nearly 2,000 people have viewed your video presentation on YouTube called Powering the Planet. And a lot of people have a lot of questions, and that's what we're here for today, to answer some of those questions. So if you would, kick things off and tell us a little bit.
Well, first, my name is John Rosebushs, and I've worked on the new energy invention for 8 years. The last 6 months, I've tried to introduce it to the world, the capabilities of it. Not only do I have a video that has almost 2,000 views on it, I've also got a blog that I've put out there named johnrosebush.blogspot. I'm on Facebook, and so I've tried to convey the message to the world about this invention, what its capabilities are, and in order to attract attention, because I need to bring people together around the world.
Okay. This is an imperative move that you're making, John. It's very, very important, obviously, to power this planet in some manners other than which we're familiar with right now. And I think that's what we're hoping to learn a little bit more about today.
Well, today about 65% of the planet is powered by carbon fuels, either mostly by coal and natural gas. These are limited resources. And oil is, we're using about 85 million barrels of oil a day around the world. So in order to power our planet permanently, because these are limited resources, and experts are predicting they're going to run out in the next 100 years, 50 years, somewhere, they're not sure. You know, it's a guess. So how are we going to maintain 7 billion people with the limited resources that we have for long term? If we look past our nose, we have to come up with a plan and energy capabilities to power this planet permanently.
John, I know your background has been in the oil industry. Can you tell us a little bit about what your particular expertise is in this field?
Well, I worked in IT. And people need to understand, by working in IT, what I did was I worked for many groups around the country for our company. I worked in the production area about 14 years. I worked in the refining and marketing area for about 11 years. And people must understand what an IT person does. So it's really improving people's jobs. So the idea that I would transition from that to this, to creating an energy invention, makes sense. Because what I've done is I've analyzed how we power our planet today, and I've actually come up with an invention.
Okay. I know you've been doing a lot of research on this and working on this for a number of years now. So come on, fill us in a little bit.
Well, this energy invention has the ability to produce about 500 to 1,000 terawatts of power around the planet. Now today, we only, actually let me go into that a little bit deeper. There's about 1,000 places where I could create a 50 gigawatts to a terawatt of power around the planet. Now let me explain to you what categories of power are.
Yeah, please do, because I think most people are familiar with kilowatts. That's the term they hear most often. Gigawatts maybe, but a terawatt, that's a sounds like an awful lot of power.
It is. Matter of fact, our country only uses about 1.2 terawatts of power.
For the entire country.
For the entire country. And China is about the same. A kilowatt, 1,000 kilowatts equal a megawatt. 1,000 megawatts equal a gigawatt. 1,000 gigawatts equal a terawatt. So you can imagine how much power that is. It's an enormous amount of power.
You know, in watching your YouTube presentation, Powering the Planet, you gave as an example the Hoover Dam and the amount of power that it generated, and then you spoke of power generation much greater than that, factors much greater than that. Again, reiterate what that was.
The Hoover Dam produces about 2.2 gigawatts of power, which is 2,200 megawatts of power. Okay? This energy invention I created has the ability to create 1 terawatt of power. That's 500 times the amount of power,
500
approximately,
times.
That the Hoover Dam produces today.
That's a lot.
And not only can it do it in one spot, there's between 50 and 100 places around the world where I believe we can create 1 terawatt of power in one site. In one site. Clean, alternative energy. Today, the largest energy producing facility only can produce about 25 gigawatts of power. So this is a complete game changer. It changes everything we think about generation of electricity. This invention really is set up for a worldwide project. And let me explain to you why. The United States is a big geographical area. So we're going to be able to create power in many places in the United States. Okay? And it won't be by a state. Maybe Arkansas, or maybe Colorado or somewhere can produce a huge amount of energy because of that site. Okay? So we can't say Indiana's going to do this or Ohio's going to do this. It would be produced in particular sites based on topography, etc. Okay? So the idea that today we have a lot of states that run utilities and stuff does not make sense with this invention. It's not so bad in the United States because it's one country. But like, let's say if we go over to Africa and they have lots of tiny countries. One country may be able to produce a huge amount of energy way in excess of their needs, where their neighboring countries might not be able to produce energy. So it's important that countries share, that they actually share this electric, okay, and are forced to, and don't exploit one another. That's been one of my big concerns, is the exploitation. I'll give you an example. Mexico can generate probably close to 2 terawatts of power. That's double what the United States produces today, okay? And maybe Panama can at all. I haven't looked at Panama, okay? But what this is going to do is it's going to rebalance the nations. Pakistan, a very poor country, would be an energy-rich country with this invention. I look specifically at Pakistan. It probably can create 3 or 4 terawatts of power. That's 3 or 4 times the amount of power created in the United States. So this invention has the ability to change the world, completely change the world.
obviously. You know, in watching Powering the Planet, your YouTube presentation, you used as an example the nation of China. Is there a particular reason why you chose using China, for example, in your presentation, or not?
Yes. The reason why I use China is because it's in the news all the time. It has a massive amount of people, and they're literally building their country quicker than any other nation that's ever has in history. So the idea that they're going through all this development, and they're using old technology. And if we there's 1.2 billion people in China. So the idea that they're building coal plants, two a week, coal-fired electricity plants. And if we look at the cities, how much smog there is. So the only reason I used China was because of the number of people, the extreme development they're doing, and the problems that they're causing the Chinese people. India has 1.6 billion people. So that's why I could just easily have used India. And India has very similar smog problems that China has.
Mm-hmm. The Chinese pollution, air pollution problem has been very much in the news in recent weeks. As long as we're on that issue of air pollution, does your system generate any ill side effects in terms of environmental problems?
None whatsoever. And, you know, I talked about the reduction in cost in this invention. But I didn't talk about where the real savings is. The real savings will be in transportation cost. If our world would turn around and use electricity, hydrogen, and compressed air to operate our vehicles on the road, the savings would be huge. Today, right now, compressed air vehicle, they estimate will cost $1 for 100 miles. Not for a gallon, $1 for 100 miles. Electricity is 75-cent equivalent to a gallon of gasoline. Since I'm producing electricity at 10% of the cost, we know creating hydrogen is from electricity. So we know that hydrogen generation would be very cheap. So that's where the real savings is. And we're going to run out of oil anyway. You know, the experts are predicting 50 years. Well, when do the governments decide they want to cut off the general public because of saving oil for military use, government use, etc.? Is it 30 years from now? It's going to be much shorter than what people think. And also, we're using 85 million barrels of oil a day right now. A barrel of oil is 42 gallons. And predictions are right. China's adding 14,000 cars to the road today. Every day. India's adding 6,000, 7,000 cars a day. Now, all those vehicles take oil. They take gasoline to operate. So you can imagine at the rate we are using up our resources. Those oil resources are essential for the long term of this planet.
If I read you right, your invention will use electricity in many, many places where oil or hydrocarbon fuels might have been used otherwise. So we can save on oil usage and extend out the period of time where we will run into a lack of oil.
So it's going to take a long time to convert airlines over to an alternative energy source like hydrogen. Okay? So people are going to want to keep flying. So oil is going to be used. Blacktop. Right now we have no replacement for blacktop. Plastics. PVC pipe and just plastic bags at the store. These things are going to take a while to find a substitute. We're going to need oil for the health of the world. People are going to want to travel. Large marine ships. It's going to take some time to convert over to some alternative energy source. But think about it. We are going to run out of oil completely. Okay? So we have to have other ways to power the world. So there is only 3 things that we can power the world with once we run out of carbon resources. Compressed air, hydrogen, and electricity. Those are going to be the only forms of power in the future. Now, we will be able to create biofuels, but they're not going to be, they're going to be a sideline product that we use for specialized purposes. Because we're not going to grow our way out. We can't grow enough switchgrass or sugarcane to actually power 7 billion people. So there is only 3 forms of energy that will be in the future. And the future's coming a lot faster than what people think. So that's the idea of this, is to start making those transformations to alternative energy sources. We're going to have to convert our lawnmowers to everything, to anything that we have, over to either hydrogen, compressed air, or electricity.
John, I know you've done a lot of work on this subject and a lot of examination and scientific analysis of this. What engineering disciplines will be involved in implementing your idea at a time?
I could spend about 3 days with engineers from General Electric and Siemens, and that's what I've asked for in a video in order to validate this project. And they would be able to give a magnitude of order estimate on what they think that we'll be able to produce energy for. I think 3 days is all I need of their time. Now, I believe they will have clear answers, and they'll validate it to the world. I realize I need validation, and that's what I've asked for. You know, the thing is, I haven't asked for a penny from anybody. I'm just asking for validation. The idea that this can benefit the people around the world is important to me. This has the ability to take many of the poor countries in Africa, South America, and around the world and create energy for them, especially if we can do it for 10% of the cost. Imagine being able to do this for 10% of the cost, and all the countries, poor countries around the world, having an abundance of energy. Energy let's face it, energy is wealth, not money wealth, but it allows so many things in a country to flourish. Electricity, refrigeration. You can imagine we can create a world where every single country has hope, and the dependencies on wealthier nations to assist them will diminish a lot. It actually creates new customers later on for our products. It'll create more commerce. It won't hurt. And it's not really going to hurt oil countries, because oil is going to just get to be worth more and more as it gets more scarce. We're still going to need it for airlines, for plastics, for asphalt, maybe different uses of it, but it's going to extend the longevity of it. It's going to make all countries will always have a benefit. Okay?
Now, you mentioned earlier corporations like Siemens and GE and other places like that. In getting these big corporations to get behind your idea, to present this idea to them, what's it going to take for them to, let's use a fishing term here, to bite the hook, to get in a little closer and sit down with you and discover what's going on?
Well, my goal today is to bring the larger nations of the world, China and India, because without China and India, this project cannot go forward. That's 40% of the population of this planet. But it's also important for countries like Mexico to realize that they could generate 2 terawatts of power. I'm going to use Mexico as an example. They could produce so much energy, they could build desalination plants on both coasts, have clean water. So the bad rap of that is gone. The smog in Mexico City, if they embrace alternative energy to operate their vehicles. Imagine Mexico City now being clean. And imagine not having to transport gasoline and diesel fuel to gas stations. Be able to create compressed air at the gas station and hydrogen. So you can now refuel your vehicles right from the electricity that came into that gas station, and they generated the fuel right there. Electricity. Be able to charge your car at home. You know, between electricity, hydrogen, and compressed air, get rid of most of the smog within that city.
John, one of the first questions that occurred to me, and I'm sure it occurs to other people as well, is the situation of patenting your idea. Why have you not applied for patents on this particular concept?
Well, you know, the intelligent people in this country and around the world know that intellectual property is being stolen all the time by foreign countries. So the idea to patent it does not protect it. If I went and filed for a patent, okay, and I got the patent, that's great. There'll be 100 patents filed, especially on something this important. There'll be 1,000 patents filed the very next day, very similar to what I filed for the patent with. That's exactly how it works. So now it's not the ability to patent a technology, it's the ability to protect your patent. Some people say, well, gosh, aren't you a little afraid somebody's going to take the idea? Well, I wish them luck. I've spent 6 years, and literally 8 years, refining this whole thing. It's not what people think, and the concept is going to be very hard for people to grasp at first, and then they'll realize that what I did makes sense. So I'm not concerned about protecting it, but I am concerned about making sure that it benefits the poor, the middle class, and the young people of this world.
And that's a very fine and humanitarian outlook on things, and I really admire you for that. If there was, John, one thing, one action, one point that you would like to convey to the people that will view this additional bit of footage concerning your idea, your invention, what would that be? what is the single most important point you would like to make in getting to these people?
It's time our world joins the 21st century. We need to create energy based on science. Today we're producing energy based on monetary policy. But this invention gives us the ability, and granted I have the inside of this invention, to create energy based on science. You know, we can create energy around the world cheap through this invention, 10 cents on the dollar, and abundant throughout 80% of the planet. 20% of the planet, this invention probably won't work. So, you know, all the windmills that we've created to date, we could move them to that 20% on the planet. We could make sure that everybody on this planet has an abundance of energy at a very cheap cost. We could take energy off the table for concerns about this country. It also will take climate change off the table. It will take water shortages off the table. And all I'm looking for is someone to validate it and the world to come together for their children and grandchildren.
Who would those people be, John? If you could encourage one or two groups of people or organizations, whoever you would like to choose, who would they be and how would they reach you and what would you like them to ask you?
It has to be the world leaders of this planet. China and India are essential to come in on this project. They make up 40% of the population of the planet. United States is critical too, and so is Europe. And actually so is South America, Mexico. There is not a country that isn't important to bring into this coalition of countries. We must form a coalition of countries, and it must be done pretty quickly. I've worked on this for 8 years. I can't do this by myself. I need people to step forward and come together and actually have this invention validated by General Electric, Siemens, and then come together as the world. The ideal situation for this is a worldwide project where scientists from around the world come together, engineers from around the world come together, and decide on what projects are important. You know, it's been a great interview, and I really appreciate your time. I've enjoyed the questions, and thank you again. You know, I'm one person. I've been working on this project for 8 years. As far as credibility, I haven't asked anybody for a penny. I haven't asked you to help me on anything, but I need your help. And I need it really bad. I probably have 6 months left, maybe 8, that I can continue working on this project. That's financially. That's what I have left. I've spent just about everything I had in retirement on it, which was over $1 million. Now, I don't feel sorry for myself, and I don't care, and I actually believe that I can come back from that and be just fine. But our kids and grandkids can't. You know, people follow me on YouTube, etc., and on my blog. General Electric, so many people from Germany, I'm sure Siemens, some of the wealthiest people on the planet, lots of government agencies. It's great. You're following me and you're sitting back and you're seeing where this is going to go. Well, I'm one person. One person. I need help. I need for every single, you know, all the young people in Europe that are paying $12 a gallon for gasoline. I'm trying to make sure you pay 75 cents a gallon for gasoline. But I need your help. I cannot do this by myself. I put together these videos. I'm not a professional media person, and I'm sure some of it looks, you know, non-professional. But it was one way that I could bring it to the world, the capabilities and what I'm doing. As far as credibility, again, not asking anybody for a penny shows I have a huge amount of credibility. Now, what do I need? I need the leaders of the different countries to come together, literally come together, and contact me and bring other leaders of nations together and make this a better world through cooperation. We have so much conflict in this world. Korea wants to blow things up. We got wars going on. It is completely insane. The normal people in this world are all the same no matter what country they're from. I've met people from all kinds of countries. They care about their families. They care about the welfare of their children. They care about making sure there's a better life for their kids. It doesn't matter what part of the planet you're from. So, you know, step up. Email me. Give me a call. But contact me. And let's put together, probably through the United Nations, because that's where all the countries come together, and decide on General Electric come together and Siemens and validate this energy project. There's plenty of commerce for everybody. What are you afraid of? Do you think that you're going to look bad because this invention don't work? Well, you know what? Siemens and General Electric, we can do this privately. We can make sure that you don't look like fools. But when it does work, you can make sure that the world knows it works. And you can make sure the world comes together, and we can create a better world for our kids and grandkids. And you'll all benefit from it. General Electric, Siemens, you'll sell generators all over the world. We'll actually create energy for the first time based on science. And you know what? All these poor countries, they'll benefit hugely. So if you're an individual in Mexico, or Pakistan, or South America, or Africa, or Europe, or United States, tell your leaders, literally, tell your friends, watch the video, come together, force your leaders to come together. It's critical. I have 6 months remaining. I really am just one individual. And you know what? Until this is all valid and everything, I have gained nothing. And I don't care if I gain anything, if that's what it comes down to. As long as the poor and the middle class around the world have a much better life than they have today. I thank you for watching this video. It will probably be the last update I do for this project. And please help me. I'm asking you, not for me, but also for yourselves. Please help. Thank you.